these working class kids make a band and they're doing all the, kind of Motown stuff. It's super fantastic, right? And who did they invite to there's some famous singer whose name I can't remember now. And the whole idea is they put this show on, somebody has a contact, is going to bring the singer, all that sort of stuff, right? But anyway, the family of this lad is called the Corleys, right? This girl gets pregnant and she's not drinking a whole lot because she's pregnant, but she drinks enough to make herself vomit, and she's nowhere to put the vomit, so she opens a handbag, vomits into the handbag. So I know.
This is Rock Bottom with Ryan. No sugarcoating, no filters. The pain, the chaos, the truth. No bullshit. Just recovery.
Hey everyone, just wanted to thank you for watching another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan. This episode is brought to you by Sober Strong Apparel. Sober Strong Apparel makes heavyweight premium gear for people who take sobriety seriously. 10% of every order goes back to recovery centers. Sober Strong also runs an impact sponsorship program that puts gear directly into facilities for people just starting out. So if you're sober or sober curious or have a loved one who's sober, check out SoberStrongApparel.com. Use the code ROCKBOTTOM for 15% off. It used to be 10%, now it's 15% for a discount. And they have amazing clothes. I love what this company stands for. The quality is incredible. I mean, you can get these banners, you can get hoodies, you can get hats right here. No poison, no compromise. I mean, it's amazing. Love this brand. Love what it represents. Stay sober. Stay true. Rep the crew. Thanks for watching. Enjoy this episode. All right, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan. I'm here with Sandra Losty today. Sandra, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for inviting me, Ryan.
Of course. And Sandra's from Dublin, Ireland, so we're talking from quite a far away right now. And
yeah.
So it's nice to have you on the show. And this is primarily a recovery podcast, so we just kind of like to go into different subjects about what you went through in your drinking or addiction, and then kind of go into where you're at today. So how long at this point have you been sober right now?
Thankfully, 30 years. I celebrated my 30th, full 30 years in March, just gone. So I'm coming up to 31, 2026, please God.
Wow. Congratulations. It's a long time.
It is. And you know what? At the same time, it feels like it was a few months ago.
Yeah, I know. Like I've only been sober a year and 3 months, so 15 months. But I mean, I'm just noticing as of after I hit a year, the time starts to go by a little faster. So
yeah, it does. Yeah. There's more to life. There's more living. There's more involvement in life. So your head is in a different place. So totally appreciate that.
Always present. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like that. So what was your drink or drug of choice? Was it primarily alcohol?
It was. I would probably describe myself as kind of being older than God. So I've a few sober days under my belt, and I've a few other years under my belt as well.
Yeah.
So it was alcohol. It was the time, my drinking would have started when I was about 12, kind of by accident, but then very quickly by design. And it accelerated very quickly. Like my rock bottom was very, very quick. So what started off as maybe an experiment, tasting stuff, there was a party in the house. Now, there wasn't loads of parties in my house. It was for a particular reason. And there was drink around. I was cleaning glasses, that sort of stuff. And then I just got the idea to, let's see what this is like. But after I poured several different types of alcohol into one glass, I mean, if you want to get alcoholic poisoning, that's the way to do it straight off the bat, I mean, it was very quick. So I was 12 at that time. I was within a few weeks and a few months, I was going to school, hungover, was babysitting, minding my sister's kids, getting money. It was automatically going on alcohol. And while some of my friends may have been doing that, Ryan, at that time, they grew out of it. I didn't. And after that first party, the next morning I drank again. Now, I don't know. I never seen that in my house. So I don't know where that came from. But I was drawn to it and I drank it and I immediately went, oh, this feels a little bit better. So I was 12, I was going into school. I was, there was a bit of trouble going on around there. To give
What
it
was
a
your
little bit
family
of
life like?
context.
You mind me
Well,
asking?
yeah, and I suppose that's kind of the context I'll give you, is that there was a lot of, I don't want to downplay it by saying drama, but there was a lot of big stuff in my family. So my father was diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic. Now we're going back to the 70s and the early 80s, right? Well, the 70s because he died in the 70s, but for me it was in the 80s. And so the treatment was very different. The attitude was very different. There was a lot of shame attached to it. He tried to take his own life several times. There was a lot of religion involved. There was a lot of stuff, a lot of things you tried to keep on your side of the door. One of those attempts were successful for him, and he died by his own hand. And then there was another part of that story, which is, it's very complex and dramatic. Not for me, I don't mind talking about it, but for listeners it can be difficult to hear. So there was other big stuff that went on, and that was in the background constantly, and that backdrop is the shame, the lack of understanding around mental health, the religious aspect of things. They wouldn't bury him, for example. It took several days for that to get passed through to actually bury him in consecrated ground. All of that stuff was going on. And all the while you're trying to, go about your business and go to school and,
Trying to grow up, yeah.
yeah, and pretend nothing's happened. And sure, that was that. Like, no skills to cope with it, no support to cope with it.
Yeah.
You're just left. So there was all of that going on at the same time. And then I found alcohol. That gave me a release on some level. Then my mother died when I was 16. So my dad died when I was 10. My mother died when I was 16. I just turned 16.
Wow.
And then I was like,
You had to grow up
bring it on.
fast.
Bring it on, and it wasn't, I wish I could say to you that I had the desire to grow up. I just wanted all the benefits. I wanted to go to work. I wanted the money. I wanted the freedom, but I didn't want any of the responsibility.
Yeah.
But sure, I was 16. I mean, who wants responsibility at 16? So things went downhill very, very, very quickly.
Were you able to
There was a
finish
few
school?
people. I finished school. So here in Ireland, you can exit school at what we call intercert level. So you're about 15, 16, and you can legally work. You can legally go and get a full-time job. And then a lot of people would then go what we call leaving cert, which I think is your high school. You'd be 17, 18 maybe, and you do your final exams at secondary level before you go on to college or university or wherever. So I left school at 15, and I went to work and I had money coming in, none of which I spent on anything productive, but there you go.
What was your first
And
job?
my first job was in a sewing factory.
Okay.
It was in a sewing factory making products for babies. So there was a time when babies didn't wear nappies or disposable nappies or diapers, as you guys call them. They wore cloth nappies, and you had to put plastic pants over these cloth nappies to stop the water coming out. And so I made those plastic knickers.
Wow, that's a good
When I
first
think
job.
about it, I'm telling you. Yeah. So that was it, but it was a steady income. There was money coming in every week, and you could start to plan and go out. And I had friends at the time. They hadn't tired of me at that point. I was still part of the gang. But by the time I was about 17, maybe 18, that was wearing thin. There was just too much going on.
Yeah. Working and
And I was
drinking and the
drinking.
coke.
Well, it was all the alcohol. So back then I wouldn't have seen the drugs. It wouldn't have been where I was, alcohol was very accessible. So I didn't need to go looking anywhere else. So, and then I was drinking at home at that point because they'd kind of stopped calling and, seeing how I was, and they were off doing their own thing. And I was just happily buying stuff in the off license and taking it back and drinking it.
You
Yeah.
had a fake ID or whatever? Is that what it's called?
No, 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 no. This is Ireland.
Ireland, yeah. I guess the rules are different.
And they were very, no, they're probably no, by today's, kind of rules. It was very different back then. You only had to look like you were 16, 17, and it was just handed out to you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, we used to get notes by neighbours on the road. Will you give Sandra an Agin of vodka, Mrs. Bourne or whatever, and you'd hand that in to the person in the off license at the pub, and they'd give it to you in a brown paper bag to bring back. I mean, like,
I think my mom
madness.
says that's what she used to do as a kid. She had fake notes from her parents. But in Ireland, I can imagine it was even more accessible.
It was very accessible, yeah. And the attitude is very loose towards alcohol. We're called the fighting Irish, the drunk Irish.
Yeah.
It's part of your identity. You're expected to drink. You're
Yeah.
expected to drink a lot, So
Yeah.
there's a whole identity piece attached to it, yeah.
Part of the culture. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 16, 17, friends started to kind of drift off a little bit because you were drinking too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much do you think you were drinking at this point?
Oh, probably, I'd say maybe 6 to 8 cans of cider a night. It was, yeah, you'd get them in a pack, there'd be, a 6-pack, and I would congratulate myself on not finishing the second 6-pack. I thought, like I was practicing harm reduction,
Yeah.
the
Exactly.
mindset, well, at least I didn't
Self-control.
drink all of that now,
Yeah.
And then almost by, I don't know, destiny or accident or whatever, I was walking down the road. This fella said hello to me, knew my name. I didn't know him. Before I knew it, we were dating, if you like. But what that relationship gave me was access to the pub, because I wouldn't go into a pub on my own, because women don't go into pubs on their own,
Good. Yeah.
And so that relationship gave me legitimate access into the pub.
Yeah.
Again.
No more day drinking at home and stuff. You can actually branch out.
Exactly. And there was a more, you could nearly kind of go, well, I'm doing what everybody else is doing, and, I didn't
Justify
have to. Yeah, exactly. So that went on for a while. That went on for about 10 years. That was chaos. That was absolute chaos. And it got to a point where we both laugh about this now, and we're not in a relationship anymore. We're long out of that relationship. But when we do see each other, we laugh about this, is that we spoke on 2 days of the week. The day that I got paid and the day he got paid.
That was the basis of the relationship.
That was the basis of the relationship. So there was, and although I'm laughing and I'm joking, and I tend to see the lighter side of this stuff.
Well, no, we can look back now and laugh at some stuff for sure.
Exactly. And amid all of that, I can see that young girl that was so lost, that literally didn't know which end of her was up, and anything that looked like a light in the dark, grabbing onto it. Even if that was an incredibly dysfunctional relationship that didn't actually bring what you would hope a relationship would bring, it was something, and it was better than nothing.
Yeah. Wow.
So all of that was there, and then all the mad stuff that goes on. But sure, I'd be here till next year telling you all about that.
Yeah. So how was the rest of the relationship with the guy? Was it primarily, was it pretty just drinking based, and then would you guys still a pretty stable relationship, or was it very toxic?
Yeah, it was. So he would be what we would call a heavy drinker, where he was well able to go out and have lots of pints and go home and have his dinner, and even maybe have a snooze and go back out if he wanted to, or if he had the money. I couldn't do that. So once I was out, I was out,
Yeah.
So it was very much based around alcohol, the pub, who had money, that sort of stuff. And yeah, there was no, we never went out to the cinema. We never went out for meals. There was none of that in the
Strictly just going
relationship.
out
There was
drinking. Yeah.
exactly. There
Yeah.
was just being together, drinking and rowing and that, but there was no building a relationship really.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah,
not really a way to get to know each other on an authentic level. Yeah.
exactly.
No, I
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
that. I've had relationships like that before where there was just like, oh, where are we doing tonight? Oh, we're going to the bar again. Yeah. Yeah. So it's one of
exactly.
those
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that lasted about, you said about 10 years?
That was about 10 years, yeah, and that it stopped. So there was a big event happened between him and I, which is a very long story and a very complex story and involves other people, and it's not for me to tell kind of here. But there was a big thing happened, and I went to live with my sister who lived quite a bit away, and I didn't for 1 minute understand really what I was bringing to her house. I just felt safe, and it was only a while after I realised this could have followed me and
Yeah.
she's here with our kids. It never even entered my head, you know. She had been pleading with me for years to stop drinking. You know, please, please, Sandra, please. And she's also my godmother. She's also my oldest sister. You know, we've a great bond. I call her Mammy. You know, she calls me our first child. We have a great relationship. So she pleaded with me for years to get help. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, be grand, be grand.
Uh-huh. And
So
you were
I
drinking
went,
actively at her house? Yeah.
and it kind of got a little bit tempered somewhat because I didn't have the money. I didn't have the access the way I would have had in where I lived. So I got a little bit of a rest, to be honest with you. And she'd go out once a week and I'd go out with her and try and manage. And then this particular day, she had some friends over and we went to the pub in that evening. And then somebody said, come back to my house and we'll have a party. That was it. And after the pub, I managed then to demolish a bottle of whiskey in their house. And we have a saying over here in Ireland, and it's called doing a Sharon Corley, right?
What's
And
that
it's
mean?
from the movie. It's from the movie The Commitments. And I don't know if you've ever seen The Commitments, the Roddy Doyle. Oh,
No.
it's well worth watching. The music in it is great, right?
Okay.
And it's
I'll write
about
it
these
down.
yeah, do. It's great. These working class kids make a band and they're doing all the, you know, kind of Motown stuff. It's super fantastic, right? And who did they invite to there's some famous singer whose name I can't remember now. And the whole idea is they put this show on, somebody has a contact, is going to bring the singer, all that sort of stuff, right? But anyway, the family of this lad is called the Corleys, right? This girl gets pregnant and she's not drinking a whole lot because she's pregnant, but she drinks enough to make herself vomit and she's nowhere to put the vomit. So she opens a handbag, vomits into the handbag. So I know. Well, great storytellers, us Irish. But it's called doing a Sharon Corley when you throw up into something that you're like, oh, I have to put my hand in there.
Yeah.
So there I was I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get sick. Just found the handbag and did a Sharon Corley into the handbag, right? And then that was kind of it. That's the last thing I remember until I woke up the next morning. And when I woke the next morning, my sister, I had two sisters, Mary, who's the eldest and is alive, and the other one is Rita, who had died when she was 17. A story connected to my dad, but I'll tell you about that another time. And she died when she was 17. And she was in the corner talking to me. And I could see her as clear as I'm looking at you now. And I was like, oh, Jesus, that's it now. I'm going into the DTs. I'm gone. And she said to me, you can't go out like that. You have a hole in the top of your head, right? That's what I heard her say.
Yeah.
And I actually felt like my head was up on the ceiling and the rest of me was on the bed. And I got an awful fright. I was like, I'm not right. So I needed to go back to where I was from originally. And I said to my nephew, will you come with me? Because I'm afraid to go on my own. And in fairness to him, he did. And I was absolutely like,
shaking.
I mean, just like from head to toe, every fibre in me being was shook. Nervous system was just shot.
The withdrawals, are horrible.
It was awful. It was absolutely, and I'd say I was on the verge of alcoholic poisoning. Like it was, like I had drank so much the day before in such a volume in a short space of time.
Yeah.
I was very close to something like that. So when we got there and I got the money that I was due, I went straight into the pub and I brought him with me. And pubs over in Ireland opened at 10:30 in the morning, Monday to Saturday.
Yeah.
Straight into the pub. And after a while, after several hours, I went, you know what, I want to go to another place. I need to get rid of him. So at that point, I'd completely lost all perspective of my responsibilities. Like I didn't even see him as a kid. He was a burden. He needed to be gone. So I gave him enough bus fare to get him back to where he lived, barely enough bus fare, and sent him off. And I went to another pub, and somewhere along the line, this is not a word of a lie, I was looking at the pint glass. I'd got a pint of cider and I'd poured it into a half pint glass. So I mightn't have washed myself in 6 weeks or brushed my teeth, but I wasn't drinking out of a pint glass. I had standards, right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't drink out of a pint glass, right?
Yeah.
With standards.
Yep.
And I looked at the half pint glass. I looked at the bit that was at the top and I went, this is not working anymore. This is all I'm feeling is empty. And I seen a neighbour of mine across the bar and I saw him putting his coat on and I said, would you mind if I walked up the road with you, Joe? And that was the first time I probably ever asked for help. And he said, oh yeah, come on. And he walked up the road and he gave me a cigarette. I smoked at the time. And he said, Sandra, I think you might need to talk to somebody, you know. So I snuck into where I lived because I wasn't supposed to be there. And when I woke up the next morning, I screamed up at the ceiling, you know. Can I curse on this podcast? Can I swear?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay. I just screamed up at God and went, I can't fucking do this, you bastard. Right?
Yeah.
As if it was a real person I was speaking to.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm going to put my hand on my heart and say, that was probably the most sincere prayer I ever said in my entire life. You know, help me, I can't do this anymore.
Really felt it.
So I managed to get back to my sister's on the bus, again rattling. When she opened the door, now I need to tell you about my sister, Ryan. My sister, if she thought you needed the coat on her back, she'd take her off and give it to you. Without even asking for it, she'd give it to you. That's how such a big heart my sister has. But when she opened the door, the hall door, and I knocked, even though I had a key, I knocked. I daredn't use the key. And she said, I hope you're here to pack your bags. I nearly died. And I wanted to kind of scream at her, you know, help me. And I just said, yeah, I am. I didn't know what to say to her. I'd put our child at risk. I'd sent that child home. He was 14. I sent him home thinking it was 10 o'clock at night. Now, luckily for me, it was 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
Right?
But
10 o'clock, he was in the way, get him out of the way.
just so you could go back to drinking.
Just go back to drinking. And I love this kid. Like if I had kids, I'd want a kid like him. He's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I went into the bedroom, I was packing the bag, like none of the clothes were new, they were all secondhand, into these little bin liners. And she came in and she said to me, and this is where I 100% believe in divine intervention. And she said to me, do you want a cup of tea before you go? And all I heard was, before you go. Do you know, I was like, oh Jesus, this is really happening. Because I had nowhere to go. There was nowhere to go. And I wanted to say to her, shove your fucking cup of tea up your hole. That's what I wanted to say to her. And what came out of my mouth was, yes, please. So I sat at the table with her. She made the tea. We sat down. And I looked at her face. And there was a look on her face. It was so pained. And I knew that I was responsible for that pain.
Yeah.
I put that look on her face, you know. And I said to her then, I said, Mary, I know now what you've been talking about for years. I know now once I start, I can't stop. And that was it. That was it. She said, do you want me to get you help? And I said, yeah. And she knew some people in Alcoholics Anonymous. She made a phone call. Somebody came down, 12-stepped me, got to a meeting that night. And thanks be to God, I haven't had a drink a day at a time since then.
Wow. It's incredible.
Total divine intervention. Completely, like it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just almost a kind of a spiritual, it seems like. I mean,
absolutely.
Like
absolutely.
Being in the road and just pleading to God, you know, like, please save me. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I had a breakdown like that before too.
Yeah. And it's full, isn't it? It's a full, sincere plea, like I couldn't have conjured up a plea like that. It was absolute, total and utter desperation.
Yeah. How difficult were the first few weeks, few days, few weeks coming off of alcohol?
It was quite difficult. I went to that first meeting. Now again, I'm going to put this into context and say this is Ireland, right? So
Yeah.
I went to a meeting. It was in a church basement, literally down the steps.
Yeah.
Pardon me. And I went in, and I mean, it was a typical church basement place, musty smell and all that. But again, I thought I was still a bit jittery, and I thought, oh Jesus, am I going to be able to sit through this? But out of the corner of my eye, I seen this person sitting on a table at the side of the room, and there was this thing moving. And I was trying not to look at it, right? So eventually I kind of got the courage up to look around, and there was this man sitting there. He looked like he had red spiky hair and a beard, and he was like something of a book, like a mythical book, and a pipe that came down like Sherlock Holmes. It was mad. And he had a parrot on his shoulder. A parrot, right? So
What?
and I was like, Jesus, I'm about to slip over the edge now. Like I really am. And then somebody said, come here, don't mind Dennis. Next week he'll bring his dog. He'll bring something new every week.
While your anxiety is kicking and you're wondering where you are.
And I'm just kind of going, actually, do you know what? I think I'm going to like this place.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was kind of my first introduction. I couldn't hold the tea. I was, rattling, couldn't hold the tea, afraid I was scalding myself. And then I heard a man share who had heard earlier on that day of his third son who had died of a drug overdose. This was a meeting in the inner city here in Dublin, and drugs were rampant at that point. It was the mid-90s. It was an epidemic,
Yeah. Cocaine everywhere. Charlie is what they call it over there, right?
Yeah, and it was, for us, it was heroin, like kind of cocaine was still a rich man's drug at that point. It was a heroin epidemic. And I heard him talking about being there for his family, being a support to his wife, understanding the young lad was in the depths of addiction. Like I was sitting there going, if anybody should be in the pub, it's him. And I couldn't reconcile hearing this man talking about being grateful for being sober and this big thing going on in his life. It was just so right there, I suppose the program of attraction caught me, because it made me really go, my God, you don't have to drink over everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's people that are getting well who have been through so much, and it's all relative about what people have been through, if you lost your significant other, or you lost a child, or this or that. It's just like, and you're still staying sober. I mean, it's inspiring to be able to see that from other people.
Absolutely. So it made me curious, like, what's all this about? Physically, I had to adjust because, now I needed to make sure there was no kind of alcohol around, and kind of physically adjust to that. Things like having a shower without somebody standing outside, that took about 3 months. I needed somebody outside because I went to these panic attacks.
Yeah.
I couldn't eat properly. Like I have this little small side plate.
Yeah.
And I'd leave half of it, I couldn't eat properly. And then I slept an enormous amount. Like I slept, had the most crazy dreams. All of that in the first few months was there.
I recall
so there was a lot of physical adjustments going on. And then the whole curiosity of, well, what the hell do I do now? Like, what do you do? I'm 28. Like, what do you do? My life is over.
Yeah. It's just beginning.
Just beginning, absolutely just beginning. My nephew, that wonderful child, I mean, he's a grown man now, but he was still 14 at the time. He mad into music, like he just absolutely loves music. But he had got a CD player. That's how far back I'm going now. We got a CD player, and he gave me his old Walkman. And I was going to a meeting on a bus, and I lived a good bit away from the city centre. It was about an hour's bus journey. And he said, here, you take that, and here's some batteries, and he's very generous like that. And there was a tape in the Walkman, and I just put it on. And I was like, oh, that's grand. I won't have to listen to people on the bus. I hate buses, And when I pressed play, there was a song playing on it by the Eagles. I didn't even know who the Eagles were.
Hotel California?
right? I was so in this bubble that
Yeah.
I didn't even know what was going on in the music scene,
Right.
nothing like that.
Yeah.
But it was a song called Pretty Maids in a Row, and Joe Walsh is the main singer on it. And there was a
Cool.
line in it that just broke my heart. I was in that questioning piece of, why am I doing this? Like, what's the point? Where, like, what would happen? And all that sort of stuff. And the line in that song was, I hope I get it right now. Why do we give up our hearts to the past? And why must we grow up so fast?
It's a
And I
beautiful line.
just, wherever, oh my God, my heart just went, oh my God, that's what I'm actually doing. I'm trying to hold on to something in the past. And I did have to grow up very, very fast. But I have an opportunity here now to actually build a life,
Yeah.
you know?
Wow. Yeah.
So thanks, Joe Walsh. Thank you for that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of gave me that little opening I needed rather than go into the head. And I kept going to meetings. I made friends. I started to do things like go out for coffee.
Oh, yeah. No more.
Who did I think I was going out for coffee? Like,
Yeah.
Those kind of things. I was never in a restaurant. I'd never gone into a restaurant and sat down and had a meal. So my first time in a restaurant type environment was like, it was so overwhelming. I thought I was going to pass out.
I know. When you start,
You know?
everything feels like a first, like a
Huge,
16-year-old
absolutely
getting your
huge.
driver's license. Everything's new.
Yeah, yeah. So all of these wonderful, amazing things started to happen, or these experiences and all these firsts. And, I did a personal development course that, led to a job. I started working in kind of homelessness field because I wanted to give back in whatever way, very enthusiastic. I still work in that field in a slightly different capacity, but I found a bit of a purpose. I found, I actually get on well with people, and I'm good with people, and, I can bring something of me to this.
And you get comfortable in your own skin too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know who I am, and I know what I'm about in life. I developed some really nice, healthy boundaries that stop me from going down rabbit holes. Is me stop creating drama where I don't necessarily need to. I'm okay in my own space. I'm okay in my own company. And I enjoy being with people. Like, where would you get it?
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. No, I noticed that too when I got sober, that I was scared to face life sober because I thought that I had been numbing myself for so long and so used to drinking through everything, drinking for every occasion, drinking to make friends, drinking. And it's like, I didn't know how I was going to survive at age 38 trying to, get sober. And I just, now, the more time goes on, the more I'm like, wow, life is better sober. And people, I think, like me
Absolutely.
more sober.
Exactly.
So much more to
And
offer.
there's definitely more a sense of purpose. I really, that landed with me quite early on. And I think I'm very grateful for things that kind of happened in my early days.
Yeah.
I had people kind of very honest with me. It's like to a point where they say, you don't have time to just hang around and hope change happens. We have to help you to make change happen. Imagine
Exactly.
you with your head and your experiences and simply not drinking. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my Jesus, I'd pass out, But people
Exactly.
were honest enough with me to say, listen, there's a program here. This will help you to change. This will help you address things.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to be a prisoner of the past. I don't want to be giving my heart up to the past,
Yeah.
And so it really and truly, I'm very grateful. A lot of those things happened quite early for me.
Yeah.
Give me a good solid foundation.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm a big part of the program too, and it changed my life, just going into that room full of people that understand me, that have been through they're like-minded, they've been through similar things, different stories and backgrounds, but we all want the same thing, and it's to stay
Yeah.
sober. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's amazing. So so you've been sober ever since then?
Yes. Thank God. Yeah.
And did you ever have any rough days between since then that you felt like, hey, I might drink, and you had to stop yourself?
I remember, again, I'm going to give you a little story, and I'm sure you have similar things where you guys are, but people get nicknames, I don't know what my nickname is. I don't know whether people are either brave enough to tell me what it is or they just didn't give me a nickname, right?
Yeah.
We let them decide what my nickname is. But there was a man called Paddy the Baker. And Paddy was one of these, what I would call an old timer, and he was around years and years and years. And he was one of these people that us young people would say, sure, what would he know about today, getting sober today and the difficulties about today? And you're like, what did he know? Well, how about somebody getting sober who didn't have the support we do? There was very little of it back then where we're so spoiled for choice, But one of his favourite sayings was, I remember the day very vividly when I knew my desire to stay sober was stronger than my desire to get drunk. And in that moment I went, I had that moment yesterday. Literally, it was like this. In that moment, I had a choice to drink, and I was quite close to it. And it was a real, fucking moment. And I didn't, because in a nanosecond it came into me, hold on a minute now. You have a really good relationship with your sister. You've mended bridges. You have a really solid footing under you in terms of where you live. You're on the cusp of getting a job. Like, you're going to give that up for a drink? And when he said that, I went, oh my God, that's it exactly. My desire to stay sober is stronger than my desire to get drunk.
Yeah, that's a huge
And
epiphany.
it was just absolutely, and literally it was like something went off in my head, and it was like a little marker. He gave me that as a marker that I could question myself when times got, troubling. Is my desire to drink stronger than my desire to stay sober? So the times have happened, Ryan, and I'm not trying to trivialise people's difficulties and my own difficulties. They were 100% there. I had jobs, I lost jobs, or had promises of jobs didn't come true. There was, financial stuff, in the early days, literally living like day to day. Like, there was a job I had, you didn't know whether you had a job the next day. You got it in the morning at 7 o'clock type of thing. Life was difficult, and all of that life throws at you happens. And some of those things where I was in a fire, I got trapped in a fire and I nearly died. There I was, 18 months sober, everything I owned, everything I'd accumulated up to that point, gone. Right, literally gone. I was in a car crash. There were breakups in relationships you were set for life with, gone. And I don't just mean romantic relationships, I'm talking about friendships that I made with other people that you go, well, what the hell happened there?
Yeah.
What happened there? All of those things I didn't understand and didn't have skills to deal with. How do you deal with somebody just not talking to you one day, All of those kind of things were there, I've had relationships where they've ended because the person died, There's been bereavements, there's been great joys and celebrations. There's been travel. I've been to America several times. I've done fantastic, amazing things where I get that moment of, Jesus, I can't cope with this. And that comes back constantly. Is my desire to drink stronger than my desire to stay sober, or the other way around?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great way to look at
Yeah,
it.
I'm blessed. I'm really blessed. I have lots of those little things that helped me to hold things together.
Yeah, and some of those things, it's like, we get tested all the time in our sobriety and our recoveries, and it's like, our higher power throws something at us. Hey, here's a challenge, and it's like, can I overcome this? And do I have enough reasons in my life to stay sober? And you just overpower it, and you become stronger and stronger.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been tested quite a bit, and I always think to myself, I'm like, I already know what the outcome's going to be if I drink. And do I want that outcome again? It's going to be jail or institution or a hospital. So it's just not worth it to me. So I'm like, I can handle this bad moment. I can handle this bad day because I know what's going to happen if I drink.
Yeah. And it is moments, and it is temporary, and it is short. It's nothing is forever. And if I can remember that in the moment, then it's like, right, just let it pass. It's almost like I remember to let it pass rather than try to pull it down and fix it the way I want it to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So being with the long-term sobriety now, and just how is life going now, and like what are you up to with the recovery hour? Can I ask all about that before we
Yeah.
close up?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So I suppose I use it to let people know there is life, there is long-term recovery, and you can build a life that doesn't, revolve around alcohol or a series of relapses, like you can continue on with this. And again, I remember a woman saying in a meeting, and, not so many women around when I came in, and she said it, she said, like, I'm 20 years without a drink and I can't imagine what life would be like. And I was like, what, 20 years? What? Who hasn't drank in 20 years? I didn't know anybody who had stopped drinking long term. If not so much now, but in Ireland we would have done Lent. You would give something up for Lent, that religious period at Easter for 40 days, and usually it's sweets or something, but in Ireland, men stop drinking for Lent to save up for the binge on Easter. Always bearing in mind that St. Patrick's Day is in the middle of Lent. So you could break Lent for Patrick's Day, for Paddy's Day.
Yeah, of course. That's when I was in Dublin, was St. Paddy's Day. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. So I knew people who stopped for those kind of things, or were saving up for Christmas or a wedding or something like that, but nobody sober long term. So her saying that was like, oh my God, it's possible. It showed me it's possible. So I will talk about my duration of sobriety for that particular reason, to let people know you can be continuously, without a drink and still get on with life on life's terms. Life has happened, as I said. There's been jobs, there's been growth, there's been buying a house, there's, I own a car. Like, it's not a new car, but I own a car and I drive, and I love the freedom that having a car gives me, There's all of those kind of things. Life just lifed, and being sober helped me to deal with life on life's terms. So when in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I was on Twitter talking about, we were doing a little Twitter chat called Recovery Hour, because there was loads of business Twitter chats, and I was like, well, why don't we talk about recovery, and not necessarily fellowship recovery, just people in recovery, wherever that was for them. And so when the pandemic hit, I just got this thing in my head, again, I'm going to call it divine intervention, open a Zoom room. So I literally just went, folks, it's only a matter of time before the rooms close. So let's all come in, talk to each other on Twitter. Let's actually see each other face to face. So that was it. Like, I don't know, I can't remember what your messaging was, but our messaging over here was, we were going to be out of this in 2 weeks. 29th of March, I'll never forget it. 29th of March, and you're like, okay, here we are. Not the 29th of March, and we're still going. So it started off as kind of meetings, typical kind of support meetings. And then what happened once we got into it, about a year or so, because it brought people from all over the planet. Like, there was people from New Zealand, Canada, UK, USA, Ireland. And very often I was only the Irish person in the room, like, just laughing to myself about that. Yeah. But it kind of, as each person stepped up to host, because I couldn't hold that 7 days a week for that length. I did for the first few weeks. And then I said, folks, if you want support or you want to keep doing this, I need you to help me out. And people did. And they then developed their own kind of strand of what a recovery meeting was for them. And there was loads of things, like, we covered things like poetry and the Tao and Zen, Buddhism, and we explored all of these kind of things, smart recovery, and it was absolutely fantastic, fantastic.
Very open-minded stuff.
Exactly. And it's like, well, what does it mean? Like, what does it mean if we're talking about the Buddhist recovery? What does that actually mean? And help us understand it. So, some people liked it. Some people wanted to stick with what they were familiar with, and that was fine. That was catered for also. We have a women's meeting. We have an LGBTQ plus meeting. There's a kind of a general topic, anything kind of goes piece. And where my piece kind of turned into was more the kind of holistic personal development piece. I have a training background, so I really enjoyed being able to bring people through programs. Like, we looked at things like archetypes. What are the archetypes in your life now that you're in recovery? Did a whole 6-month program on that. You know, I do a thing called the transformation game. So we help people understand a problem from that perspective, you know. So there's loads that it's kind of morphed into. And who would believe that even one of those meetings would still be going 5 years later?
Wow, that is amazing.
You know?
Yeah. So yeah, that's incredible. So what can people reach out to you? Is it recovery_hour.ie?
Yeah, it's if you do Sandra at Recovery Hour.
Okay.
Sorry, Sandra at recoveryhour.ie. That should, if people are interested, that should get to me. The website, now the website needs to be updated, but any of those information forms on the website will also come to me if people find their way there and they can't remember that email address. So if anybody's interested, absolutely, they can just reach out and I can direct them into wherever they want to go. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Your story's been incredible. One more question. What advice would you give to my listeners that are sober curious, new in recovery, been in recovery? What advice would you give from your experience? Because you have a lot of long-term sobriety that I really respect and we could learn a lot from you. So what advice would you give?
This is what I say to everybody. Alcohol will always be there. Okay? You're not missing out. It'll always be there. You can decide if you want to go and get it anytime you want, you know. So it's not going anywhere. But do give living a different way a good, solid chance. Just give it a go. You have absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain.
I love that. It's perfectly said. Well, thank you so much, Sandra. I really appreciate you being on, and
thank you.
Definitely we'll keep in touch, and thank you so much for being on the show today. It really means a lot. Your story is incredible.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Rock Bottom with Ryan. No bullshit, just recovery.